Hello and welcome to Behind the Message. My name is Rodrigo Cano and I am here with co-founder and teaching pastor John Ferguson without an H.
John
Right.
Ferguson. It's actually Jonathan. I
Jonathan.
don't know if you knew that or not.
I did know that. Yeah,
Jonathan
yeah.
without an H. Middle name is Philip with one L. Lots
Philip.
of interesting variations.
Can we call you Philip from now on?
You want to try that? You
Yeah,
can?
let's try
Okay,
it.
all
Let's
right.
try it. So I'm here with Philip today, and we're going to be talking about the message that you just shared about creative for community.
Okay.
And before we start with any of the content, I just want to say the first part: 350 people have gotten connected to communities.
Yeah.
On top of we already have. So let's talk about that for a
Yeah,
little
no,
bit.
I think that's super encouraging. Yeah, between our in-person gatherings and what we're seeing with our community online, over 350 people are now gathering with us. That's our reach is expanded by 350 people in just the last year. And so, yeah, we've been super excited to see what God's doing as more and more people seem to be kind of connecting with us online, finding out what we're doing, and then also joining us at our in-person locations across Chicagoland. So, yeah, super encouraging news.
That's pretty
Thanks
awesome.
for
So if
bringing
you're one of the 350 people, I want to say welcome.
Yes.
And thank you for making community your home church.
Absolutely.
We're so grateful for
Right on.
that. And so then you talk about being observant.
Yep.
And then you talk about the many times that you might have got in trouble with Lisa. So you have any of those stories?
Rodrigo, you trying to get me into more trouble here?
Just a little bit.
Why don't we turn it on you and tell me some of the stories that you have about how you lacked being observant
trust
in your marriage?
I'm not very observant at all. Trust me. Diana has actually to show me like, hey, I did this on myself. Please tell me something about this. So,
Well, see, at least she recognizes it, and then she just kind of like helps you along, knowing that you're not going to be observant. Whereas, my wife kind of lays it out there and lets me, just kind of die on the vine, waiting to see if I notice, and of course I don't.
yeah, we had a conversation with my wife, and I was very honest. Hey, please, like, just tell me. Just tell me what you did to yourself, and we can avoid these kinds of
Did
videos.
to yourself.
Yeah. So,
Oh, that's great.
but yeah, no, I mean, we talk about crowd and community.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you said that community is better. That's when it happens. When life happens in community rather than in a crowd. And so I just want to ask this question because we know we meet as a crowd, and actually for 2 years we were not able to meet as a crowd, and now we are able to do that. So what place does crowd and the community? We talk a lot about a community, but what place does crowd play in our lives?
Right. Well, and if you go back to the Acts chapter 2, verse 42 to 47, it does say they gathered in two places, in the temple courts and from house to house. And so I think the implication is that the temple court probably was a larger gathering, certainly more space than what they could bring together in their homes. And so there were two places. And I think even in our own Christian walk, we kind of understand that sometimes that crowd provides that inspiration, or maybe that teaching in a different way, sort of being exhorted maybe in a different way than you oftentimes experience in the community, in the smaller group setting. So I don't want to take it all away from what we can experience in the crowd. I think there's a worship experience sometimes in a crowd that is different and more powerful and meaningful in a different way than you might find in a smaller experience where you actually do discover authentic community.
Yeah.
I think we've all probably had times where we can point to and say, yeah, that was a different experience, something I needed in that moment, in that time that boosted my walk with Christ. But even so, the community really is where I think that the good stuff really happens, where we do grow closer to Jesus, we grow closer to each other. Those physical needs can be met, those emotional needs can be met, all the things that we talked about in the talk. We find that in community and not as much in the crowd. I will say one more thing too. At community, oftentimes our experience too, and I don't know if this is a cultural thing or not, but oftentimes there are folks that might feel more intimidated in a smaller group as their first experience of church or of their spiritual journey. And so, we know now over 90% of people check us out online first, actually experience one of our services online, and then sometimes they'll make their way to an in-person service because they feel like that's a little safer. They could be a little bit more anonymous maybe before they would actually experience authentic community.
Yeah.
But we always want to get them to that group as quickly as possible so they can experience the community that we've all experienced and really know has the greatest impact.
That's pretty good. And you talk about Acts 2:42, and that's something that we talk about a lot in 3C communities, one of our expressions. But also it's something that is lived out in small groups as well. And you have a few of those elements like fellowship and prayer and breaking of bread and generosity. We see that there. But, we live in a technological era. A lot of the things happen via Zoom or online, even
Right.
like this mean, right? So how can we experience that type of life and fellowship in that technological era that we are?
Right. No, it's a great question, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Rodrigo, because I know you've thought about that a lot too. I'll just share a couple things. Particularly, I think during the pandemic, we found just how amazing online small groups were at people actually experiencing authentic community.
Yeah.
And I think prior to that, we maybe saw that as like a secondary way to maybe be a part of a group, or maybe a first way, and then you actually want to go to in person. But now we're recognizing that no, being in a small group via Zoom, you actually experience a depth of community that we never thought possible. I know Nikki Gumbel, for example, the founder of Alpha, vicar at Holy Trinity Brompton in London. He was kind of like anti online groups for Alpha, and then the pandemic hit, and so like so many of us, you innovate. And he said, there's no way you're going to see the same kind of life change, the same sort of supernatural occurrences online in Zoom as you do in person. And now, after the pandemic, he's changed his thinking on that completely and recognizes that actually online groups actually remove some of the previous barriers that they experienced to people being a part of an alpha group. It just doesn't demand as much of people to actually cross the barrier to getting there, because you could do it in your home.
Yeah.
You can dress casually. You don't have to get childcare. There's just a lot of advantages to it. And then on top of that, people were actually opening up at a very deep level and experiencing the kind of community that we were talking about that we see in Acts chapter 2. So definitely possible. But I'd love to hear your take on that too. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, just like you mentioned, I mean, I think it's possible just to have community through online and technology, and something that we are experiencing and even doing through 3C communities and other ways is, we're able to reach out people like in India, and we're having conversations with pastors in India, and pastors in different parts of the world. I am doing something with my own family. I am trying to experiment. And so I'm sharing the content that we have for community online with my family who are in Mexico and Arizona and California and different parts of the world. And we're getting united through that, through that channel.
Yeah.
And it's something that we were not able to do before, and a way to reach out to those who are far from God. And that's part of what we do.
Yeah.
And using these tools to do that, but also creating community, like having communication channels and being in touch with other people. So I think it is possible. I do think that it requires like an additional step of intentionality, just being very intentional about what we're trying to do. But I think it's possible. I really think it's possible.
And I've been in situations too. I was in an alpha group online, and I can remember one of the gentleman that was a part of the group. His wife was Renee, and Mark was his name, and they wouldn't care if I said their names. But no kidding, when we first started the group, Mark would literally sit out of the camera view. Like his wife would be there participating. He would sit out of the camera view, but you knew he was there because occasionally he would participate. And then slowly but surely over the course of time, he'd start inching his way in front of the camera to where he was more comfortable actually engaging. And I know for him, at the end of the alpha, that ended up being a life-changing experience for him. So I think we tend to want to compare maybe online to in person. And instead of comparing them, I think, hey, we've got options. We've got some great tools. And now online is a tool we didn't used to have. So let's use every tool at our disposal to reach as many people as we can and to help disciple as many people as we can.
Yeah. I mean, you talk a little bit about the personality of the person, right? Like some people, maybe their next step, or they want to meet in person, but for some of other people, that's what they want to do, and that's that you would say that would be right?
Yeah, I think you need to kind of know yourself, and if you're in a season of life where you just feel like you need that face-to-face, real life in person that isn't necessarily better or worse than online, but different. And if you need that, then let us help you find that. And we have groups online, we have groups in person. And we would just love to help you find a group either way, online or in person. Yeah,
that's pretty good. So I know there's people who are listening to us and they're probably not connected to small groups. So what would be the encouragement? I know what the encouragement would be, but what would you say to them?
Yeah, well, I would say, as we mentioned before, go to communitychristian.info. You can find all the information about our small groups there, or you can let someone know. If you watch the talk, you can scan the QR code. It's probably available on our website somewhere as well, but we have lots of groups starting. As a matter of fact, this is the new term beginning right now as we head into into this, I guess, spring season here before summer kicks in. And it's another great time to get into a small group.
Yeah. So we want to encourage everyone to be part of a small group. Community happens in small group, a lot of life transformation, a lot of things, really good things that happen there. Well, thank you so much for sharing that and sharing the message. So let me just ask you this. Did you notice something different in me today?
Today? Yeah, new haircut.
No.
New outfit. No?
No, you're not even close.
Oh, no, not even close.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay, all right. See, I'm not that observant.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in to Behind the Message. And for these and all kinds of information, go to communitychristian.info so that you can get connected. You can find all the information that you need. And we hope to see you again. We hope to see you soon.
No, what, you can't leave us hanging like that, Rodrigo. What the heck is different?
Yeah, what's
Nothing.
Oh, you just made it up?
Yeah, I just made it up.
Put him on the spot?
Yes, it's exactly what I did.